Q is going to continue to pass judgment on humanity based on today's Star Trek game, Star Trek Strategic Operations Simulator, this time for the Atari 8-bit computers. And I still have my overlay from the 2600 version because the 8-bit version used the same overlay and it still doesn't fit that great on the controller, but it's there nonetheless. So let's go ahead and pop this into my Atari 800 XL and see how this version holds up today. Let's go to the game. Star Trek Strategic Operations Simulator was published by Sega and carries a copyright year of 1983. It is based on Sega's arcade game, which came out about a year earlier, potentially to capitalize on the release of the second Star Trek movie. The manual opens with the following. You are the potential captain of the USS Enterprise. Your training mission? Save the Federation from their most powerful enemy, Nomad. There are 10 levels of progressive difficulty, 6 rounds of action-packed adventure each. Fight off marauding Klingons and menacing antimatter saucers. Destroy them before they destroy you, or they will deplete your Enterprise functions and defenses. Dock with your star bases to replenish your weapons and repair your damages. The longer you survive, the more space dangers you'll encounter. Maneuver through perilous fields of asteroids and blazing meteors. Store your energy, sharpen your navigational skills. Prepare for the ultimate challenge, destroy the deadly mine-laying Nomad. If you're successful, proceed deeper into space for more Star Trek action. 10 different skill levels of unparalleled adventure. Do you dare to venture where no video game has gone before? Be brave, be bold, be daring, but beware. Star Trek Strategic Operations Simulator is a single-player space shooter with one standard mode of difficulty. If you saw my previous review covering the Atari 2600 version of the game, you'll be hearing a lot of the same as the games are very similar, although I will be covering some of the differences as well. The game takes place in 6 phases. 2 Klingon encounters, followed by an asteroid field or meteor shower, followed by 2 more Klingon encounters, followed by a showdown with Nomad, a space probe from the original series that acts like a weaponized DirecTV satellite activated by Skynet. Your screen has a lot going on. On the top is your score. On the top left is your gauges with your remaining energy shields on top in yellow, followed by your red photon torpedoes, followed by your blue warp drive on the bottom. On the top right is your radar and on the bottom is your viewer. In the middle of your screen is your shield force indicator, which goes from best to worst, dark green, light green, yellow, orange, dark orange, and red. The game came with a joystick overlay that shows you that you could press a button to fire your unlimited phasers, use up to activate thrust propelling you forward, left and right to turn your direction, diagonal up to turn while moving forward, back to fire a photon torpedo, which can potentially take out multiple ships but is pretty hard to use efficiently, and down and the button to engage your warp drive to temporarily move faster, which like torpedoes can be difficult to use and I found sometimes put you in more trouble. This version of the game also lets you use the keyboard, with A being used to rotate left, S to rotate right, spacebar to activate your thrust, the plus button to fire, the star to use your photons, and the return key to warp. One downside of the keyboard is that you can only use one key at a time. On the plus side, however, you can use a key with the controller. So for instance, you can use the joystick to fly the Enterprise and the keys to use your weapons and warp. It's a setup I actually enjoyed trying out, although I'm mostly stuck with using a controller when playing. During the Klingon phases, you can encounter 2 types of Klingon ships. Red-orange Klingon ships will focus on attacking your star bases. They could take 10 hits before being destroyed and will flash at half health. If the ship destroys a starbase, they will turn white and try to collide with you. Purple Klingon ships will target the Enterprise. Yellow antimatter saucers can also appear, trying to attach to the Enterprise to drain your warp drives. During this phase, you can touch a starbase 1 time each, turning it from green to blue to add 1 photon torpedo, warp drive, and shield unit to your ship, but if you touch one, you won't earn extra points when the phase ends. Once you clear an area of red and purple Klingon ships, you move on to whatever the next phase is. After 2 Klingon phases, you move on either to an asteroid field or a meteor shower, the main difference being that meteors move faster than the Enterprise. Your goal here is to replenish supplies by contacting star bases while avoiding collisions. During this phase, you can only steer the Enterprise. After this phase, you face 2 more Klingon phases and then Nomad himself. Unfortunately, you cannot convince Nomad that he is in error, so you must blast him with your phasers while avoiding his fire and the mines he sets up. Defeat Nomad and gain a sector, returning to the first Klingon phase at increased difficulty. If you run out of shields, future hits will either drain your photon torpedoes or your warp drives if you have any left. If you take a hit with all your gauges empty, your game ends. Points are measured in strategy training units. The amount of points earned depend on your actions and what sector you are in, as shown on the screen. Graphically speaking, this is a nice looking game and a step up from the 2600 version. The sounds and music are also well done, although it's not that much of an improvement over the 2600 version in this case. Family friendly wise, the game would most likely get an E for everyone rating if released today. Currently at PriceCharting.com, the game has a value of $16 loose, $35 complete, and $71 new. So what did I think of Star Trek Strategic Operations Simulator for the Atari 8-bit computers? Well, if you saw my review of the 2600 version, you already know that I didn't care much for the setup of the game, as I found myself spending most of my time playing it staring at the radar screen, looking at a tiny Enterprise and tiny shapes. I will say that the Atari 8-bit version is an improvement over the 2600 port. The improved graphics do help, as does the ability to hold more shields, which is nice since the game seemed to be a little bit more difficult. The controls are still cumbersome. After all, the original arcade game used 4 buttons and a rotary knob, but at least in this version, you are allowed to use the keyboard with the joystick. Overall, I still don't like having to focus on the radar so much, and I wish they turned this game into a more Star Raider style of game, but the improvements over the 2600 version did help me enjoy this game more, to the point that I wouldn't mind playing it more in the future. So where am I going to rank Star Trek? I'm looking around Jungle Hunt at 10. A game I like playing, but its difficulty holds me back. And since I can get more out of a play session of Star Trek than I can Jungle Hunt, I'm going to give this one an edge. So out of the 14 games I've now ranked for the Atari 8-bit computers, Star Trek Strategic Operations Simulator is warping into the 10th position. Star Trek for the Atari 8-bits improves on the 2600 version, although you'll still spend a lot of time looking at a small portion of the screen. That's just my opinion. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Also, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me both on the Facebook and the Twitter, and click the bell so you don't miss any future videos. At this time, I'd like to thank Judge Johnny P for supporting the show on Patreon and nominating today's game. If you would like to sign up to support the show and gain access to exclusive perks, please go to patreon.com/NoSwearGamer. Thank you for giving me a little part of your day, and I look forward to seeing you next time in the next episode of the No Swear Gamer. Take care, everybody.